Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We are live on YouTube, War Media, fans and faithful. Welcome back to a special edition, and a special edition of Running with War. Your man Kyle Means here, editorial director of War Media. And I got a old friend with us starting off, man, our session today. All of my usual runners are somewhere else right now, but they go join the party soon. But I'm glad to start with this guy who you see right here with us, Jeremy Woo. If you were a faithful fan of D and Davis show, you should know this name because he was definitely on D and Davis show quite a bit. And this is the first time he's been on war programming in a minute, man. The first time he's been on this particular show, which I definitely was trying to get him on, on Running with War because this being our basketball show, this is one of my favorite guys to follow and talk basketball with, and that is Jeremy Woo of Sports Illustrated. What's going on, man?
How you doing, man? I'm good. I guess just been watching college basketball all day and ready for. We'll see how this new All-Star setup is going to go.
That's why I'm glad to have you on today, man. Because this is a weird yet wonderful day. Because there's a lot of college going on, plus the All-Star game. I got my Chicago All-Star hat on, from last year. Shout out to Mitchell and Ness. They hooked me up last year. But I don't like the color. I don't like how my hoodie is showing those. It made me like a Knicks fan, with the This is a red hoodie, y'all. This ain't no orange hoodie. But I'm this All-Star game, I'm pumped for that, even though there's a lot of weirdness and unease that is associated with the All-Star game this year. We're gonna get into that over the course of the next couple hours. But but the college stuff I think is more pure right now because last year was such a tough year, losing the tournament as a whole. We didn't get to have any finish. We didn't get to finish that season like we did with the NBA. There was no closure to it. But this year is back, and it seems like a lot of the great energy that we typically get from March is being reinstated. And, with some of the stuff we've seen today, the smaller teams are starting to get their automatic berths in. Here in Chicago, we got the story revving up again with Loyola, getting into the tournament. And, they by them winning the automatic berth with the Missouri Valley. We got Illinois, who is a possible number one seed, looks like right now. Really an amazing season for them. And, it's just cool stuff. We just see it like the last shot in Houston, man, that Houston Memphis game. Seeing stuff like that is really showing that March is in the air again. But with you, being that you have sort of an equal focus on the pro and the college game. It's good to have you on for, another 20 minutes or so. We got to let you go and quit pretty soon. But just first off, man, just give me your thoughts on everything that's going on now. What's been catching your attention? And you told me just before we came on too that you're going to be covering the tournament live in Indy. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah. I guess I'm looking forward to this month. It's weird. Yeah, I haven't been to a game in a year.
Yeah.
Typically in a normal season, I'm spending a lot of the time going to games. For looking at players for the draft. Doing NBA, doing college. It kind of is a unpredictable job already. So, for the last year, I've been doing nothing. It's just, I've been working, but it's a very different pace.
Yeah, you've been doing nothing.
I've been mostly laying low. So personally, I'm just looking forward to, hopefully, this is going to be a safe thing for everyone. But, just being at a game, I think, March is hard to replicate. We're talking about Loyola. I was at the tournament when I was there in Atlanta when they went to the Final Four a couple years ago. That was an amazing moment. So just things like that, like you said. I don't know what it is about this time of year, but just these games are always crazy. Stuff is always happening.
Yeah.
It's just, as a journalist, I think, I try hard to, I got to be kind of impartial, but at the same time, it's like the fan in you, no matter who you are. I think with the tournament, it's a lot of fun. And, it's timed out. We got the all-star break kind of lining up right now, too. So it's just, it's a good time for hoops fans, I think, right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What is like, you talk about covering the tournament, but you're also, like you said, very much looking at it from the point of view of a draft expert, an NBA draft expert. There's guys that are this draft seems like it's going to be very interesting because you're going to have guys who are coming from like G League teams and stuff like Jalen Green and these specialist kids who try these other routes and stuff. Kids who coming over from Europe, of course, as well, and as that's typical now. But you also got the more typical one and doneers like a Cade Cunningham, who is looking to be. A lot of people say he's going to be the top pick overall in the draft. And he's actually going to have a chance, possibly. They got some stuff hung up with the NCAA. Oklahoma State does, but he has a chance to be showcased in the tournament this year. I guess along with Cade, what are some of the guys who you're looking at individually who you really are hoping to see have a chance to be showcased in the tournament?
Yeah, I think Evan Mobley from USC is a guy who I think he's a big reason why they're good. He's the number 2 prospect on our board. I think he's a top 3 to 5 pick for sure. He's had a really good year. Defensively, he's just an excellent player, and I think that's the type of player who can be a really big equalizer in a tournament setting. Just the defensive impact, particularly. So, he's a guy who I think if they win a couple games, I don't know if this should happen, but something like that could ignite the conversation. Well, should he be number 1? And I don't think so, but hypothetically, yeah, that could happen. Obviously, like you have Jalen Suggs on Gonzaga, who had a really good year. Gonzaga. It would be stunning if they didn't make it to at least the Final Four. A lot of people will. I'm sure they'll be probably. I would guess they're the betting favorite to win the whole thing. So, guys like that, when they're on teams that are making deep runs, it matters. And I think, I don't want to say this definitively, but from the people around the NBA I've been talking to, it does seem like the tournament this year, it might carry a little bit more weight than it normally does, just because. A lot of teams are treating this as, a must-see type deal. So I'm sure, 25% capacity fans, but, teams will find a way to be there. I don't know. I'm not sure what the setup is going to be, but so it might be a more magnified platform than usual, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it is nice that, in years past, we've had a lot of top picks who did not make the tournament. Their teams just weren't good enough. I mean, think about like Ben Simmons, for example, didn't play in the NCAA tournament. This year, pretty much all of the main guys are, if you're guys looking at a lot, top 10-ish picks, like, most of those guys are going to be in the tournament. So I think from that perspective, it'll be fun. It's just, you don't want to overreact to anything. But again, I'd be lying if I said it didn't matter. Like, this stuff is going to matter in some cases.
It's funny too, because like with the tournament all being contained to Indiana, it seems like it's even more of a big old AAU tournament or something, right? Because everything's gonna just be in one city or thereabouts, But I'm interested too, bringing it back to our home state. With Illinois, it's a real interesting wrinkle in their story is the fact that their top 2 guys both declared last year. And they were going to take Illinois to the tournament last year. Ayo Dosunmu, of course, a National Player of the Year candidate, and Kofi Kofi Coburn, the big center. They were both declared last year, but because they did, I guess in large part because they didn't play in the tournament last year, they didn't get to have a run. They came back, and also of course, their prospective rankings last year in the draft. They both come back and they do exactly what they needed to do. They built themselves up. They have a great year with Illinois. They're going to be possibly a number 1 seed, like I said. And the show, especially for Io, like what he's done to he's had to have done some positive impact to his stock, right, with this year, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Last year I think people were a little bit all over the board. They wanted him to show more. I think there are still some questions about some things there, but at this point I think I'd be surprised if he's not at least like a top 40 pick. Like I don't know if he goes in the first round, but I think he has a chance now. Whereas he may not have in the past. I think winning is something that teams always value. Whether or not that should always be the case. Who's to say? But the fact that they are on track to get number 1 seed, I think helps. And he's had a really good year. I mean, he's if you've watched Illinois, he has really carried them a lot of the time. Kofi's having a good year too, but it's really been Io. The supporting cast is not it's a solid supporting cast, but it's not like they have a lot of creative players. And Io, this is a situation really, if you think about it coming into the year, where it could have been sink or swim if he hadn't stepped up in terms of his playmaking and his shooting. It's I think a lot of that burden fell to him, and people knew it because Curbelo is a good player, but he's a freshman. He's still kind of figuring out how to run a team and not really a scorer. He's really a setup guy. So I think everything really fell on Io in terms of creating with the ball, and he's shown he can do that at a higher level. I still have some questions about how good of a shooter he is. I think ultimately that's going to matter a bit, but he'll have a chance in workouts to show that. If there is a combine, he'll obviously be there. That'll be an opportunity for him to keep proving it. But yeah, I think the more they win, the more people he'll have time to win over. So and in Kofi's case, it's tough to say just because with bigs it's so difficult now. I think the bar is just higher than ever because so few NBA teams play through the post, and the guys who are getting lots of post touches are all all-star type guys. And Kofi's not going to be that. He's going to have to figure out what else he can do to be a role player, and it doesn't stretch the floor, right? But again, you can look at last year, for example, Udoka Azubuike was a first-round pick. Surprisingly, Utah took him, but they took him, to have an extra big. He fits their system. They play drop coverage, like that type of thing, where the fit there was just ultimately so strong. So we always say, hey, this guy's a first-round pick, or he's not. But the truth is, like, we really aren't going to know, in some of these cases because it's so situational. So I don't think he'll be a first-round pick, but I think there's an outside chance he gets picked. If someone wants, a third big, he is really big, he's really strong. You don't find guys with his type of body and just like heft very often, and he knows how to use it. So I don't think he's hurt himself. It's just a matter of, which team is going to see that as like a creative fit and worth rostering. But I assume he'll be in training camp if he chooses to go. And I don't know if he will, but it seems like he should. I don't know. But that's tough to say. But altogether, I think it's been a really impressive year for Illinois, and getting a 1 seed I think exceeds everyone's expectations for sure that we would have had coming in. So.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you before we have to let you go about some of the rookie players who are in the league right now. But before that, I want to talk real quick about a player who jumped out to me, another player who's in college. I guess not anymore though at the college level that jumps out to me, and that's Jalen Johnson. What do you think about his story? The fact that he, leaves Duke early. Says he's going to be working towards the draft, and a lot of people had various opinions about that. But do you think that he's made the right decision with that? And it's possible that Duke doesn't even make the tournament. But do you think he's going to be a top level lottery guy?
Yeah, Jalen's always been an interesting player to scout. I've seen him live a bunch, and up the road from Milwaukee. As far as like what he decided to do, I mean, I think only he really knows if that was the right decision. But knowing that he had a history where last year at IMG in Florida, he wasn't there for very long before he went back to Milwaukee. I don't know exactly what happened. Yeah, I don't want to speculate.
Sure.
But these rumors are circulating around, so people think certain things or whatever. But ultimately, like if you're just looking at him purely as a player, like he has a lot of ability. I think it's really going to depend on how teams weigh the intel that they get as far as his ability to just sort of like buy in and be part of an NBA program. And again, it's a much different thing. You don't really have excuses. You gotta once you're getting paid to show up, it's like you kind of have to buy in, or you're not going to last in the NBA. So a lot of times for guys, there are different guys who've had different types of problems, and I don't think Jalen is the worst among them, right? So I think there's a chance he still goes in the lottery. I don't know for sure. But if you just look at guys, his size, his ability to play make, he's always been very tantalizing just from a projection perspective. And even I don't think he's going to be a star, but he can still have a really solid career, with what he does have. But yeah, he's a guy who's going to have to do well in interviews. He's going to have to sort of answer those types of questions about what happened, because teams always find out one way or the other. Right? There's no hiding from the NBA. I always tell people, so he's a player. I think there's a certain point in the draft where you have to think about taking that gamble. But again, if you look at, he didn't have a great year at Duke, and when he was playing, he wasn't always helping them that much either. So these are all factors you have to take into account. But I will say I think that the general consensus right now, everyone kind of knows who the top 5 picks are going to be in this draft. That's kind of agreed upon right now, barring anything crazy happening. So the question is who's number 6, and that's where it really kind of gets tough. And I think you talk to 5 people, they might have 5 different answers. And again, that's why we have this whole process. And I think guys will probably start to separate themselves a bit. There's probably a group of 10 to 12 players after those first 5 that it's kind of they're not that much separating them really. So this is not like the super draft that teams were hoping it was going to be, but I think it's still a pretty interesting. Going to be interesting. A lot of interesting storylines that crop up just sort of as we see. What the order is. Obviously, a long way to go. But a lot of interesting players.
Who do you see that top 5 to be? I think we may have mentioned about 3 of them already, but so you're looking at probably Cade and maybe Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, and what will the other 2 be?
So I think it's those 3, and then the 2 guys from Ignite, Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga.
Okay.
I think those are probably the top 5 guys. If that's what we have. That's what I had that at the start of the year, and it was my guess. And I don't know what's going to change it. What would change that right now? I think teams are kind of looking at those guys as sort of that top group, and I think that's pretty solid. Like, I don't like saying it's a good draft or a bad draft, just because you never really know. I mean, last year we were a little bit. I think last year that there was a concern that there wasn't like a clear-cut number 1. I think now, LaMelo's playing really well. Edwards is doing okay, but I think if people redrafted, LaMelo would probably be the number 1 pick.
Right.
And there are always different reasons why. Maybe people don't see things as that clearly, coming in. So it's a very fickle industry, I think. But at least I think that if you're a team and you're picking in the top 5, getting one of those guys, it's like you're adding something to your core. Like those are guys who all feel like real pieces, which is a good place to start. And in the case of Cunningham and Mobley and might be these guys could all be really all of them have all-star type potential. So I don't want to like gas them up too much because it's still early. But I feel good about at least those 5 guys being solid players, if not better.
Okay, it'll be interesting. We definitely want to get you back on to talk about that draft when we get closer to it, man. Hopefully we can make that happen. But before I let you go here, man, like you started the transition already. What do you think about this year, this past draft from November? Such a unique situation that was, given the timing of the draft and those guys coming, like I say, from a season that wasn't complete and everything. Like you said, LaMelo has just been, just been outstanding in Charlotte. And, you also had some good sparks from Edwards, the number one pick, and Wiseman, has been in the mix for a winning team so far in Golden State. And Patrick Williams has shown some things for the Bulls. But you've also had, some nice people, what you typically have in the draft, like some guys from later on in the draft showing out, as well. Emmanuel Quickly and, Therese Halliburton fell down a bit to the Kings, but that seemed to be a good landing spot for him. So what do you think about those guys and, anybody else who you think is stood out for the 2020 rookie class?
Yeah, I think it's a better class than I think it was probably billed as. Myself being one of the people who does that, I think it's better than I thought in terms of just immediate impact. It's still really early. I never like to be like, oh, I was right, or like, oh, I was wrong, because it's just like, yeah, I mean, we can say whatever we want right now, but it really doesn't matter. We have, at least 3 or 4 years to kind of really get a feel for these guys as pros.
Yeah.
But I think it's been encouraging to see. And I think LaMelo, being just hitting the ground running has been a pretty big story. And when you really think about it, it kind of makes sense. I mean, just all the hours basketball he has played. He has played a lot of basketball professionally at a young age. I think maybe we undervalued, just like how well, just the fact that he was producing in Australia. His team wasn't winning, so I think that kind of fed into some of the concerns. Now, I think we'll see what type of player he becomes in terms of, right now it's kind of like the honeymoon period. There's not really any pressure on Charlotte. If they make the playoffs, that's amazing for them. Coming in, getting Hayward, getting LaMelo, and kind of turning it around like that. No one would have guessed that, I think, 6 months ago or whatever. So, but again, when winning becomes more of a pressure cooker, we always kind of see what happens to guys, and so we'll see what happens with him. I think some of the concerns were, will he be able to run a winning team? What type of leader is he? And this is not to say he will or won't do those things, but we'll kind of see how that plays out. Edwards has been kind of what I expected. Having a lot of highs and lows. It looks good in highlights, and then his advanced stats are pretty bad. But again, he's really like learning. Like I think people got to give him time. He has not played as much basketball as Melo has at that age, and I think the good flashes have been positive. Minnesota is kind of an interesting situation. Hopefully they get the development right for him. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to monitor with Towns and how those guys fit, and sort of obviously they've already changed coaches, but I feel pretty good on the whole. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton was my favorite player in the draft.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome watching him. He's a joy to watch. Just like I say that in like a corny fan way, but it's true. I love watching him, and he's been excellent. Patrick Williams, I think, looks like the right pick for the Bulls, just in terms of sort of like a malleable piece for their roster. Clearly has big upside. Don't know exactly how good he's going to be. Doesn't have a lot of NBA like skills yet, but you see him out there and he's learning, and physically he's there already. So. An interesting piece for them to add. Wiseman, we'll see what the Golden State does with him. It's kind of been an incomplete year. He's missed a little bit of time. People are always going to get mad at Golden State for not taking LaMelo, I think. But
it's like you think about it now, like, man, that could have been, you would have been like some Harlem Globetrotter stuff,
right.
That guy on that team, man.
But yeah, it's been, I think, good early returns for the most part.
Yeah,
still some guys we need to see play more. But what else can you really ask for? I mean, it's not like these guys are all doing nothing. So
yeah, definitely, man. Jeremy, so glad to have you on, man. Just like I say, to hang out for a little bit. Like I said, gotta have you on again and hang out with the rest of the crew. But like I said, just glad to have you on for a little bit, give you a little taste for our running fans of what you could do. And definitely, would like to get you on closer to the draft. And anything else before you go? Anything else that about tonight or this, the All-Star stuff that you're gonna be looking out for tonight?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I don't know. I've been to the All-Star game a bunch of times, so I think I kind of like. It's been a while since I watched it on TV. I'll say that. So I guess I'm interested to just kind of watch it because when you're at the game, you don't have a good seat, so almost doesn't count. So, where
were you at last year?
I was like, well, they had us in the media deck at the UC, but we were
at the top. Yeah.
Well, you know what they always do is they put the media. So you know how they have like the big stage where they do the intros and like the halftime show.
Mm-hmm.
So we always are sitting behind that, and there's a screen that comes down. And every year you see people complaining about it, where like the screen comes down and just comes down right in front of us. So when you're seeing whoever it is, performing, we're all sitting like behind it, like looking up at the screen. So that, not having to do that.
It's like you're backstage, but with none of the perks.
Exactly. So it's like, if you didn't see them, did you really see the show? Like, I don't know, but we'll see how these different competitions go. I'm honestly kind of glad that there's less people in it. Like, I think 3 for the dunk contest is fine. Like, these things always take too long anyway.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes. But I think the game itself, I did think genuinely that last year the new format worked really well with how they are ending the game and the different target score things. So I think it'll be competitive. I mean, these guys, I feel bad that they have to go do it. Like LeBron, wasn't happy about it, and I sympathize with guys who have to, instead of going on vacation, have to go do this amid everything. But these guys are there to put on a show, and I think ultimately they know it's for the fans. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
It always is.
Hey, Jeremy, man, let everybody know how to follow you and follow your work. Of course, Sports Illustrated, SI.com. How else can people follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Jeremy Wu. So that is my primary outlet. I don't use other social media for work, so I try, got to separate it a little bit. But so don't follow me on Instagram. I'm not gonna follow you back. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
No doubt, man. Definitely follow this man on Twitter. He's a great follower on Twitter. And have fun, man. Tonight, man. Hope you enjoy the game, and definitely hope you enjoy the tournament in Indianapolis, man.
Yes,
so stay safe and definitely keep up the good work, man.
Same to you, man. Enjoy All-Star. I'll catch you later.
All right, man.
All right, take care.
Jeremy Wu, definitely an old homeboy. Appreciate him stopping by and setting things off for us today. We got another homeboy coming up here, joining the party. Gabriel Wilkins. You see the man right there. What's going on, Gabe?
What's going on, Cal? How you feeling?
I'm good, bro, man. Just I'm trying to get into some mood. I got my All-Star hat on and everything.
Yeah. I see you playing number 88.
Right. I'm flashing back to last year too. That's why I got it when everything was here in the city, and it was a lot more festive last year. So trying to bring a little bit of that energy back, but it seemed like they seem like they're trying to they're trying down there in Atlanta, and it's been some interesting news pop up. You hear about the Philly guys having to drop out the game and everything, but apparently that happened, whatever their contact potential to the virus happened in Philadelphia apparently before they even made it to Atlanta, so you can't necessarily blame the game or having the game and all that on that. But still, it's tough that, especially given two of the brighter young stars in the game, Embiid and Simmons, especially Embiid, the way he's been playing this year, to not have them in the game is kind of suck. But I don't know, man. What's your thoughts, man, on everything? And in how they're trying to put everything together. One of the funny things though to me is that they really did keep. If you look at the jerseys, they kept the jerseys from Indianapolis. They could.
Yeah.
Those are the jerseys you're gonna see tonight are the jerseys that they were planning to have for Indianapolis, because they're obviously takes on the old Pacers jerseys.
Yep.
Like the jerseys that they had when they first drafted Reggie Miller. Like,
yep.
It's just crazy. Like, this was a year where they should have had let the guys wear all their jerseys, their individual jerseys, like they did, back in the 90s some and everything like that. They should have let that happen instead of trying to force these jerseys. They kept those for back when they have the game in Indianapolis, actually.
I agree with you on that. And me and Drew Stevens was on your platform war meeting. We were just talking about that on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah.
He had retweeted it and with a caption and was talking about it. And as soon as I saw it, I picked up on it. I was like, that looks like the old Pacer threads from the 80s during when Reggie Miller's first touchdown in Indianapolis. And they had like Wayman Tisdale and Chuck Person and all those guys. And even though that was before me, I do remember seeing highlights and flashback videos from old dunk contests. And I remember like seeing guys like Terrence Stansberry wearing that jersey when he was in Indiana. So I was like, I could just tell. And then when you just look at the way that the font on the jerseys were and so forth, like, like those were Indianapolis jerseys. That was specifically for it being in the race car state, So I saw the theme like perfectly, like from the beginning. I was like, they definitely should have had the players bring their own uniforms, especially when you got a collection of uniforms these guys can wear now. There's no excuse. Nike's getting their fair share of the buck off of them, and so is the NBA, and taking advantage of it with how they put together uniforms on given nights during regular season games. So I thought that would have been cool with a different look and something that would have been done for the first time since 2002 in Philadelphia. That's the last time I can remember watching an All-Star game where players had their own jerseys on, like from their respective NBA teams.
Yeah,
it's gonna be sad to not see Joel Embiid in the All-Star game, just for the simple fact of what this guy's been doing. He's on pace to become the first big man since Moses Malone in 81-82 to average 30 points or more in the season. He's second overall in scoring. Only Bradley Beal has a higher scoring average right now, who's on pace to win his first scoring championship in the league after James Harden won the last 3 years in Houston prior to moving to Brooklyn. I really would have liked to have seen him play, and it would have been great, especially when, in my mind, he cemented himself over the last week and a half of action in which he was playing is the front runner to win the MVP award.
Yeah. It's hard to argue that right now, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, let's bring on, we got another one of our guys on, man. I got to give a special interest to this brother, man. This is the trivia champion of the world, Mr. Chase himself.
Not even, man. I was part of a solid squad.
Yeah, you was, man. Just like you was part of a solid squad with Runnin with WARR. We ain't got you the money that they got you though. That your Chase squad got you though, man.
Yeah.
They y'all got broke off on Thursday night, man. But actually before that, but we all got to see it. But definitely happy for you, man. And like y'all can see, it's Mr. Chris Pennant, live and in effect, back on the show. How you doing, bro?
What's up, y'all, man? I'm good. Man, the show experience was cool. The Chase on ABC Thursday night, we got that season finale slot. I actually was talking to my teammates Elliot and Catherine earlier today. We've been texting since we left LA pretty much, and it's that experience I think is great. Just meeting people like that because they're both trivia people. Elliot is a vet. He's been on Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. He had a 4-day run on Jeopardy. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? All that, and Catherine's been doing trivia for years. So I'm just, I'm new to this. I did the bar stuff. I did like little trivia competitions at bars and fundraisers and stuff like that. So I'm happy. I'm the proverbial happy to be here, be there guy. But it was so much fun. And I was telling them I kind of caught a little bug. So we're going to try out for some more stuff in the future. I've always wanted to get on Jeopardy. So we're definitely trying that. But yeah, man.
You went head up with one of the main Jeopardy guys. So that's definitely, you definitely got some stripes on you now, man.
Brad is Brad Rutter. He's good. He had a tough game. He had a tough night against us, but he would have taken anybody else, I think. But that's us. That was our team. We were that good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that later. Probably we'll see if we got some time for it. But me and Gabe was talking when you came in about how really the league just really throwing stuff against the wall with this All-Star game. Like they taking the jerseys from Indianapolis and
I saw that,
trying to use them for Atlanta. Like, and I guess they're just hoping that nobody else calls off, from either of the rosters before, these game for the game tip off in a couple of hours. But it's like they're getting the skills competition going. I got TNT on the screen before me, so we sort of watching along as well as doing our show here. So we'll see. We'll talk about that stuff as that goes along. But we've all been on record here on the show. I think all of us and other people from the show and stuff, just how this is sort of wrong-headed. I think that they're them taking on this game, sort of wrong-headed decision, in my opinion, and in our opinion as a show. But they're doing it, and I think Bobby Porter said it really well in a tweet I saw earlier today. Like they really should have just picked and they did this with the Rising Stars. Like they could have just picked the rosters, had these guys acknowledged as All-Stars, and just left it at that. I know they're putting together this money and stuff for the HBCUs and stuff, but the thing is, so much of the NBA they were well-meaning. They're trying to be well-meaning. They're trying to represent the culture and everything, but you can't control everything around you. So in Atlanta, you've got all these parties and stuff that's going on. We had to see, we had to see Little Baby's broke jump shot for no reason. We had to suffer through that. And I've seen pictures now today, on Twitter of like several cars, being broken into, getting they wheels taken off in downtown Atlanta. Like,
is that for real?
Yeah,
that really happened?
Like, yeah, just left on the blocks, man. Like, it's wild, man. People are getting taken for everything down there right now, and for what? I just don't understand. Well, none of this really had to happen, but I don't know. Chris, you got any thoughts on that, man?
I agree with Bopo wholeheartedly. I think I said something similar when we talked about it a couple months ago when they announced that they were doing the game. There's players who have incentives tied into being selected as an All-Star. Cool. That's in their contract. So announce the rosters, get those players their bonuses, get them a ceremony or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you design a commemorative jersey, send them a commemorative jersey just so they have it. Just guys who might be an All-Star once or twice, so they have the jersey, right? And then don't play the game. The funny thing is, Simmons and Embiid didn't get COVID because of this. They caught COVID back in Philly, so for something that happened there. But in the vein of that line from that movie, The Paper, with Glenn Close, it doesn't matter if it's right, if it's wrong tomorrow. It just has to be right today. People are going to see that and think exactly what we're talking about. Like, why are they playing this game when two of your best players not in the game, in the league, not just in the game, in the whole league, are put in danger because of it, then all these other guys are put in danger because of it. And this is the worst possible thing it could be for the NBA, having those two guys out, not just for this game, not just because we wanted to play this game. Again, it's not necessarily because of that they caught it, but that's what the optics look like.
Yep.
They're out for a prolonged period of time now. And we've seen with players in other sports, it's not just like you catch COVID and you get over it. It's not a cold. They're going to have far-reaching health complications because of this. At best, it might be lingering with them for the rest of the season, where they're fatigued more easily. We saw it with Yohan Moncada with the White Sox last year. He wasn't right the whole season. Eduardo Rodriguez with the Red Sox, COVID, it made his heart situation worse, and he had to sit the whole season out. And that's baseball. That's not nearly as aerobic a sport. So it's just a bad idea playing this. And not only for the health reasons, like you said, I guess Atlanta wasn't prepared. Like, I shouldn't laugh at people getting their cars broken into, man. But
some were prepared though. They were some were out there with the jaws, frothing at the mouth, man. But you know.
They were, because I saw a Twitter video late last night that was coming from some club. I don't know exactly where it was, but it was a whole bunch of people around, and it wasn't a lot of people at all wearing any mask that I saw in that video. No. And to add to your point, Chris, when you talk about Embiid and Simmons missing this game, it's a devastating blow because Philadelphia currently has the best record in the Eastern Conference. And to not have two representatives on the best team in the Eastern Conference record-wise right now, especially when I believe Doc Rivers is the head coach of Team Durant, like, that's a horrible look. That's a very horrible look. And I just want to know, if I had a question for Adam Silver and I was there on media availability, I just want to know what changed. Because initially, the plan was to honor players as all-stars and let them have a week-long break once we reach this point in the season after the first half. I understand that money talks. I get that it's a business. And I wasn't surprised that they reversed course in their decision. However, I can definitely understand anyone who was against it, and I can understand players being against it, especially when they're playing every other day just about. They don't have limited practice time. As a result of that, you really don't have hardly any time to be around your family, and I think a week off could have benefited a lot of teams. And the wild part about it is, too, like, it's Sunday night, right? It's 2 games on the dock on Wednesday, the 10th.
Right.
So, like, the season result, and then Thursday, you have a whole bunch more games, like at least several games going on. Like, I can't imagine being in Chris Paul's shoes, and I'm playing on Sunday, and then you're asking me to come back and play 3 days later. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Typically, these players get a close to a week-long break during previous All-Star games that have been held. It's not going to be like that this year, and it is kind of problematic. It's for a great cause, like with HBCUs and COVID-19 relief efforts, but it definitely sticks out in the back of your mind, even as a fan of the game and someone that is still going to watch the game regardless, because you want to see the greatest talents in the world doing what they do.
That's a good point, because they could have raised that money or given up that money, just done it. They didn't have to do all this, this pageantry around it, to give money to HBCUs. And that's a really good point, I think, with the scheduling, because like they're not even getting really the type of break that they would have got in a regular year. And this is a year where they're playing more back-to-backs than typical. They're squeezing in games. Like, I don't know how it is for so many other teams, but we looked just at the Bulls schedule for the second half in our last show, and they're doing like 8 back-to-backs in the next couple of months. So it's like, unfortunately, Zach is going to have to deal with that. But Zach is basically the Bulls right now, so that's an issue there for them, and I'm sure for so many other teams, it's going to be similar complications going forward. It's like they got to space themselves out. They're going to be a lot of guys, doing some load management probably leading up to the playoffs because of it.
They're going to have to, because if it's anything that I would hope coaches who coached during the 2011-2012 season, it was a 66-game season, as a byproduct of the players' lockout, you had a lot of injuries happening. And you had a whole bunch of back-to-backs being played in, because the season started on Christmas Day around the same time as it did this year. They're only playing 6 more games, but they're playing back-to-backs darn it. If not a back-to-back, you're playing 2 games in 3 nights. In some cases, you're playing 4 games in over a 6-night stretch. Yeah, you're going to have to rest guys. And it could get ugly later on in the year, if not around the playoffs. Like, I remember literally the first day of the 2011-2012 playoffs, and I know to the detriment of Chicago fans, I know a lot of them do it.
You don't have to talk about that. You don't have to talk
about that. And then Iman. I never forget that. And it's just an unfortunate scenario. And I don't think the league has ever thought about that enough. They're trying to deal with cramming in seasons.
Yeah, it's enough again to make. I was talking about. I think one smart thing that they've done is they've expanded the restrictions or reduced the restrictions for the two-way players. So I think that's going to help some. I guess with some teams, at least the ones that are actually using, G League squads this year, and so that's a smart thing. I think they should maybe give them some thought to extending the rosters. I know I said that before with the All-Star rosters. They should have thought about expanding that, but that was more about allowing more players to have chances to be named to the team. This is when we talk about expanding the actual rosters, the real rosters, we talking about having not reducing the possibility of teams having to forfeit games or postpone games, because that's definitely something you don't want to see in the next month or two. Teams having to push back games, whether it's because of COVID related illness or just regular injuries or whatever. So it's there's a lot of complications that stand to happen, with the league going forward. But let me jump in another of our homeboys here, and I don't know why I got some. Well, I'm hearing back audio, but Josh, what's going on, man? Joshua M. Hicks joining the party. How you doing, bro?
What's up, fellas? Nice to see you back, Gabe. See Breezy doing this. I mean, it's been a hell of a week. See Breezy's famous, man.
We know he's the king of trivia, man.
Right. See Breezy famous. I'm being out here on game shows and stuff, man. I'm just trying to take care of life. My hair's all messed up. Look at me. I just came from doing work right now. This laptop ain't even fresh. So it's like, we're just working. I'm just working out here, man. But I'm just glad this All-Star weekend. And I don't know how much you guys have talked about with all the, the recent updates with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and everything taking place. And, it's a lot. It's a lot, but at least we here. That's all that matters right now.
We talked about that. We talked about how they kept the All-Star jerseys from Indianapolis and trying to use them for Atlanta. This has been like a redheaded stepchild of an All-Star game, man. This has been a unique situation where you've had the game switch within a year. It's not even at the place where it was originally scheduled, and but looking at the NBA knows how to put on the show. Looking at it, right now, looking at the skills competition that's going on now, it still looks official, but it's like, they got a lot of the energy, it seems like, from the bubble games, with the screens and everything. So, it's a lot. The court looks nice and, got a type of color to it and stuff, pops visually, but it's just something that's still gonna be off, man. We just gotta hope for the game itself. I think that maybe the game itself will make everything all right in the end. Like last year was a pretty good game. Josh, I remember you writing last year about the Elam ending and how that was going to be a big change to the game, and it wound up sort of really adding to the excitement of the game. What do you think about them keeping it this year? It seems like they were really happy with it.
I think if anything, although the concept is actually a pretty brilliant concept to utilize for a situation like this, I think at the end of the day, it'll never top what it did in Chicago because of what Chicago meant during that All-Star Weekend time. I mean, that was during a time where they did this to honor Kobe. Kobe was in the unfortunate death that took place where he was supposed to be there. And that was a way of honoring how he plays his games, even in All-Star games, every year that he's done in the league. And it's great that they're continuing that tradition because it does make the games more exciting. But the moments itself, when it comes to those moments, it will never be magnified like the way it was when it was done in Chicago, because that was just a prime of with the situation, everything that took place, the prime of that moment. It won't be the same.
Yeah, and to add to your point on that, Josh, like the whole weekend last year from top to bottom was just crazy. Like I can remember when Buddy Hield had to hit the final shot on the money ball just to win the 3-point competition. Like Bam Adebayo won the skills challenge and such. Like everybody was bringing it at a high level. The slam dunk competition even lived up to the bill between Aaron Gordon and Derrick Jones Jr. So like it's definitely not gonna top the energy that we had. Plus we had for first, like that was our first All-Star game in 32 years. So the city was waiting on it. And then you add Kobe's passing on top of that, it was like, that to me, that was the best All-Star weekend in 20 years. Since like 2000 Oakland, which was the first All-Star game I ever watched. So like nothing will top that one, I think, in a while.
Yeah, I think the fact that it happened, it was the first major event after Kobe's passing. It had an air of, the seriousness and weight to it that, it was combined with the celebration, though, because we were celebrating his life and legacy, but it was also like, family reunion or family gathering after a funeral or something. Like, I think one of the things that sticks out to me that I'm always going to think about is, seeing like an Allen Iverson that weekend and how he was going around showing love to everybody and people showing love to him, like, giving hugs to people and, just letting people know how much he appreciated, being around everybody because and everybody showing him love because we knew in that moment as much as at any point before then that we gotta show our people love while they're here, and we just had lost someone who we was loved and respected, and we thought was going to be around for a while, but you never know. But and I think that just really weighed on everyone's thinking at that game. So it was at that game and that week. So the festivities, it was this unique combination of bittersweet, seriousness, but also rejoicing and really fellowship that really was involved with them. And I got to see AI party with Guy Fieri. At Bounce. Yeah, Josh, you were there at Bounce at the Mitchell and Ness party. That was like that was the type of, there's a few surreal moments for that week that I could speak on, but those will go in the memory banks definitely.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you just even thinking about the things that we did as a group, I think one of the things that really stood out to me was how small of a world it is between sports and African Americans. Like, because even with the events that we went through, like, even though obviously we're a media group, And when you want to compare from the tops to us, there's going to be some discrepancies. May not get as much love. But when you mess around with the greats, when you get to meet the legends, when you meet the greats, when you meet people that are putting these events together, the respect for the most part, very, very much the same respect level. It seemed like, it was like a treated family type of love type of thing. And to have all that combined with everything that's going on, I mean, for me, Kenny Smith's party was a prime example. To be able to get, to go to Kenny Smith's party and interact with the legends there, and they pretty much saying, "Oh, you a media guy? What's happening?" Like they treat you like the respect level that you would think at any other party or any other event, and the connections in between all that was crazy. Seeing who knew who and how this person ties into this person's life, and how you become the triangle piece of how this relationship can work and different things. I just think how small of a world it really is between us as media and athletes and sports in general when it comes to events like this. It's pretty surreal to be a part of. And, that's something that for me, I will never forget when it comes to, one of the biggest stages and the biggest events that growing up, I would have always loved to participate in, whether it's being a fan or even in media. So that's for me, what really what I like to highlight and always remember in the back of my mind when it comes to All-Star Weekend and things of that sort.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, like you say, it's a sort of a small world, and it feels that way because they actually do like black people in the NBA for the most part. There's a lot of pandering that can occur with sports organizations or corporations as a whole, because at the end of the day, they all are looking for better ways to connect with people and get their dollars from them, get their loyalty from them, their brand loyalty. We recognize that, but with the NBA, you can look at the history and the fact that the league is powered by, as Kyrie said, the Black Kings. The Black Kings powered this league, so there just has to be a connection there that is beyond whether it is in, say, the NFL, where you have more of a master slave mentality there, or baseball, where our presence once was very great, but it's dwindled down to a very a low degree from its heights in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, when you had brothers all throughout baseball, but now it's just a very small percentage. But the NBA was still very much a high percentage of the players, at least. There's still a lot of work to be done on the management side and the coaching side, but the players are still there, and they're going to be there, and the fandom is still there, and even the media to a degree is greater. The representation of black media is greater in the NBA than it is with other sports leagues. So, we have our say there in the NBA, and it leads to the NBA All-Star Weekend being, as they once said, a Black Thanksgiving. It's that type of a moment where we all come together and culturally celebrate what we like to celebrate, put up the things that we like to put up. We have the artists that we like to have, sing the national anthem and do the shows at halftime, and we party and BS, to on a regular weekend, but we may be doing it this year to our detriment, unfortunately. But it's just like I say, going back to what happened last year, experiencing it as a whole, as I did as well for the first time. It was quite an experience, that, to say the least. But yeah, let's get back into the present day stuff and what's going on, and let's I think we're gonna switch over at the bottom of the hour to Twitter for another about a half hour or so on Twitter before the game kicks off. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the couple moves that's gone on. Actually, one move that we know is going on, and one that potentially could go on that has popped up with the Bulls. But first, let's talk about the move that happened with the Nets, and that is picking up on Blake Griffin, who was released from Detroit a couple of days ago. But the news has surfaced this afternoon that he is he's cleared waivers and he's looking to be picked up by the New Jersey Nets. So what do you guys think about that? Some people are saying that he could be revived in that situation. Other people are like, is Blake Griffin in 2021? That's not big news. Maybe if it would have been in 2016, but not in 2021 or something, But what are your guys' thoughts on Blake joining the caravan of talent in the Nets? Is he the type of guy that they need right now? And is he going to have an impact?
I think he's another weapon in their so-called arsenal. I'm not big on using that type of imagery, but Blake's career is on his downslope, and it has been for a couple years. His vertical leap has diminished, part of his game is diminished, and he doesn't have the Vince Carter type jump shot to keep him going and viable for a longer period of time. But he's remained adequate. Those couple years he was in Detroit, he dropped that 51-point game a couple of seasons ago. He was an all-star only 2 years ago, put up 24 points in Detroit after he got traded in his first full year after the trade. So I don't know if a revival is on tap. I think his 12-point per game average is going to tick up a couple of points, and they got another body around the basket. But what is he at on defense? Is he going to give them anything on rebounding? I think he can offer them a change of pace in terms of what teams have to game plan for defensively. But as much as I like Blake, and I've liked Blake since he came in, he seems to be a fan-friendly guy. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He never seems to have taken himself incredibly seriously like some other players have. I don't know exactly how much he can really do. It's good that he and DJ are back together. I'll say that much. And if the Nets win the ring, I'll be happy for both of them boys. But in terms of helping the Nets along, I think his addition will be kind of minimal.
Yeah. Lob City still has some life in it, I guess, Gabe. What do you think about Griffin being a part of the Nets?
I love the move for Brooklyn. Anytime you can stack the deck in this day and age, when it comes to putting star players together in the pursuit of winning championships, you do what you have to do by any means. And I give credit to Sean Marks and the net staff for bringing Blake in, but also Kevin Durant, who I think has really taken it personally what a lot of people have said about him. When he went to Golden State, everybody wasn't in favor of that move. They thought that his championships were invalid and so forth. Well, he's decided to go to Brooklyn after winning 2 titles out over the last 4 years and say, hey, I'm going to form my own super team. James Harden, you don't want your situation? Hey, come with me. Andre Roberson, Oklahoma City giving up on you. You coming off of an injury. Hey, I take a chance on you. He's basically assembling his guys alongside of DJ as well, like who's one of his guys. Granted, they battled for many years out west. But I believe that Blake is going to come in with a lot of added motivation into this situation. Like to go from playing in Detroit, where you were playing for one of the worst teams in the league. Granted, as Chris mentioned, he did average 24. He earned a trip to the All-Star game just 2 seasons ago, and he led them to the playoffs that season where they got swept by the Bucks. But since then, I could kind of understand how motivation with a player like that in that situation can subside. I believe he's gonna come out with a force of abandon and energy unlike any other that he's had probably since his LA days in 2015. I don't think he put up the numbers that he had in 2015, and he doesn't have to. As long as he's a valuable playmaker on the offensive end of the floor and help them out on the low block, be a valuable on the glass, which they help tremendously in. I think he'll work out fine. I really do. And he's more versatile than a lot of people give him credit for. He's not the athlete he once was, but as a passer, as a shooter, he's stretched out his range shooting wise on the floor. I think he can give opposing head coaches another problem that they're going to have to deal with on nights where they already got to figure out a plan for Kyrie, KD, and James.
He can bring potentially a lot, Josh, but is he though? I think a lot of people probably look and say they still need like a more of a rim protector, or just simply a post presence, that could play with some of the bigger guys that they're going to see, such as an Embiid in the playoffs potentially. Do you think that the Nets are still going to have to make some more moves before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I believe they would. I mean, I believe they have at least one roster spot available. So with that one extra roster spot, they can probably utilize that to go maybe after a JaVale McGee, or depending on what happens with Andre Drummond in his situation, if he does get bought out, I won't be surprised if they try to make that leap with him as well. But I think what makes this Blake Griffin signing so different or so interesting is the fact of what happened with James Harden. And I say it because of the fact that when they brought James Harden in, people was always asking, trying to figure out how are they going to make this work with Kyrie and KD, what they would have to give up, who's going to have to handle what position, how they're going to play offensively. James Harden took on that role and said, I'll play whatever role I need to play to win. Not just offensively, but also defensively. And he stepped up because of that. And you see the Nets winning the games that they're winning, especially in KD and sometimes Kyrie's absence, because of James Harden. I think Blake Griffin can bring that type of same mentality when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, because he knows he doesn't have to do too much. He doesn't have to score a lot of points. But he knows he knows in certain areas, especially in rebounding, like Gabriel mentioned, and also defensively when needed, maybe shot blocking here and there, that he can fill in that void. And he's done it a little in his prime when he was with the Clippers. And obviously he's aging from the injuries and things of that sort. He's not the same Blake Griffin as he was before. But the fact that he's going to a team where he knows there's championship aspirations that changes the whole mentality. And that changes the whole approach to the game. And because of that, I think he's going to be willing to take on that step to say, you know what? I'm here to win a championship. So whatever's necessary for me to do, I'm going to do that. And I think that's going to contribute. And I think we're going to see that you guys talked about that extra motivation to not just revive himself, but revive his career. This is the best way to do it. You go to a team where there's championship aspirations and you play a pivotal key role and adjust your normal role that you normally are to show your versatility, as well as the fact that your willingness to do whatever it takes to win. And that's what a lot of veteran superstars now are trying to do in order to get themselves back into the winning column. And Blake Griffin needs that. He hasn't seen the playoffs in a very long time. He hasn't had that much fame or success really since the Clippers. And once that broke off, Blake Griffin been kind of average or kind of, unknown per se in people's eyes. He wants to revitalize that. And one of the best ways to do it is play against a nasty already trio with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving and James Harden, and not to mention, like you guys mentioned, DJ, one of his best bros in LA with the Clippers. He's there too. I think all those things play a role where he's going to step up and say, you know what, I got to do what I got to do to win a championship. I'd rather leave out this league with a ring than nothing. So he's in the perfect position to do it. And I think that's probably the best move he can make, to revitalize that mentality and that name for himself. And I think if he takes that same approach that James Harden took in order to win this championship, or to at least put himself in a better position to win, Brooklyn will be just fine.
Yeah, that's really some force when you think of it in regards to star power and potential. Like Gabe said, Griffin still is a pretty notable guy in the league, even though his game hasn't been at the level that we've been used to in the past couple of years. He's a guy who in the media has been notable and everything. He's been in, appeared in other media shows and stuff like that. And, people I think outside of the league know him to a degree. So it brings him more of a star quotient to the Nets. And, I'm because of that, I'm glad to see that he has the chance to play in big games again. I think, tying it into another guy who just got off of that sinking Detroit ship, D Rose. We were sort of speaking that last month about him and, wanting to see him play in the playoffs again and play big games again. Now this is Griffin's chance to be in that situation again, to revitalize himself. And, we get to see him have a chance to be a competitor again. So I think that's a good thing for the league as a whole to have a guy like him in that position. So, but right quick, just going back to what's happening in Atlanta, the Domantas Sabonis took the skills competition.
He got his skills challenge revenge.
Yeah, he got his win, and so a nice little button for him. A guy who didn't get picked initially on the team. He winds up getting on the team and winds up with a skills challenge win as well. And the inside guys are talking to Zach LaVine right now as they're getting ready for the 3-point contest. I wanted to bring this up with Zach. Actually, I think we could talk about this on Twitter. I wanted to bring up Andre Drummond and some of the Bulls rumors surrounding him, but we'll talk about that on Twitter. But I want to talk about LaVine right now because he's putting himself in a position. I know some people may be disappointed that he's not trying a hand at the dunk contest, but he's giving himself a chance to be the first ever person to win a dunk contest and a 3-point contest. So there's some history that he has a chance to make. And it's interesting because I saw a post last night. I believe it was it might have been your old site, Hoops Habit, gave that said that Mike has the worst shooting percentage of any 3-point contest competitor ever. In 1990, he had an ill-fated attempt at the 3-point contest, and he wound up with making 16% of the shots. And that goes down for the worst performance ever in the 3-point contest. So I just throw that out there because it shows, like, of course, Mike was one of the greatest dunkers ever, legendary in the dunk contest, but he didn't have it for the 3-point contest. And we haven't had anyone who was great at the 3-point contest. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Kenny Smith probably is like the greatest 3-point shooter who actually did the dunk contest well as well, but he hadn't won it. So, I don't know who else you could throw out there, besides him. But if Zach is actually leading, he actually has the best percentage of the shooters. Oh, Brett Berry, that's good. That's a good one too. That's a good one. But
BC averaged 37% for his career.
Yeah, that's a good one too. My fault on that one. Yeah. So, but like I said, of this year's shooters, Zach has the best shooting percentage of the season, than of everybody else in the competition, and that includes 2 former winners in Devin Booker and Stephen Curry. So, there may be a chance there, that we see that history happen. But, Zach is just it's a great weekend for him. But he comes into the week. He came into the weekend with some wild news around him. News of some lady coming at his residence and having to call the police on this lady that apparently stalked him and followed him to his residence and wouldn't leave and stuff. And I think it's to take off on what Big says, to to paraphrase, is more fame, more problems. You know, I guess this guy's learning on the fly, you know, about what it is to be a star in the NBA now. But I don't know what that's about, Chris. What do you think about that, Chris, man?
I wish I had some kind of experience so I could relate.
Listen, you may get that in a couple weeks, man.
No, man,
lady might come out and be like, "I saw you on the chase."
No, you know what's funny? I was talking to like I said, I was talking to my people earlier, and I went to the gym the last 3 days, and I kept thinking, it's like, I wonder, man, if somebody's gonna recognize me at the gym, and I realized we're all wearing masks, so ain't nobody gonna know who I am. Nobody's going to be like, oh, man, I saw those glasses on TV. It's like, no, you're not going to recognize that. I wasn't wearing my hat that I always wear. So I have no clue what it's like for Zach LaVine now to have stalkers. And I think it's going to be when somebody when somebody like mispronounces his name, if he goes on a national show or something and they say Levine or something like that. But it's not going to happen because basketball has known Zach LaVine for so long. And he also hasn't reached that point where he's famous outside of basketball. Like even Draymond and Jason Tatum got that Subway commercial these last few days. And it was funny to me because I knew Draymond Green from having seen and heard his voice so long from being at Michigan State. And I could not recognize Jason Tatum. And I'm sitting there like, who is that dude? I know that dude. Which dude is that? And then I had to watch another commercial and hear his name to be like, oh, man, that's Jason Tatum. My bad. So Zach hasn't reached that level yet. It's just he's having a lot of weird things happen to him right now. And, you know, I think it's funny, too, because, I mean, the old girl was just happy for him. You know, she's like all of us. She wanted Zach to be an all-star, and now he's an all-star. So that's part of what he can take with him as fame. As the newfound fame and glory that he's deserved for a few years now. And I just hope that he can keep parlaying that into more appearances and more stalkers and more, you know, random IRS audits or whatever. The things that the unwanted things that come with fame. He's going to start dating some up and coming movie star that nobody expected, like when Baron Davis and Laura Dern were together for like a couple months. It's gonna be great for him, man. So I'm happy. Hopefully he does win the 3-point contest. That's all I can say about that. Hopefully he does win the 3-point contest.
Chris, I think if you wear the Salmon sweater, I think you get a lot of attention out in these streets, man.
I do have to get that sweater, man. I gotta get a pink sweater now.
They gonna be people gonna be all over you. They see you in that sweater out there in the streets, man. Man, yeah. But Josh, what you think about, you know, LaVine's star, you know, his newfound star power, and you know, the gift and the curse that could come with all that?
I mean, at least this situation with the woman, you know, stalking him and being in his house and everything. It's not as bad as Eddie Kane trying to jump over the gate trying to yell out for JT and the rest of the 5 heartbeats. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as that. So, you know, we got to at least give Zach some credit for that. But but at the same time, Zach is on the rise. He already has his Adidas contract. He's about to have his own Adidas shoe. And even in All-Star Weekend last year, when we, you know, was able to see him in person, the floodgates was flocking. They was coming to. They stood in line all around the block.
Tell right quick about the event that we saw him live at.
Yeah, we was at this Rakuten event, and Zach LaVine was making a guest appearance, and he was, you know, signing autographs, things of that sort. And when we pulled up, there was a line wrapped all the way around the block. And we trying to figure out if they just holding the event, you know, like trying to hold up the line before they start letting people in or whatever the case may be. But since we had the media connect, we just walked right on through. Come to find out, the event was still going. They were just waiting for Zach LaVine to pop out so they can take all these photos with him. And the photos itself was like about an hour long almost. It was about an hour long for them to for them to get through all that before we had a chance to actually sit down and converse with him.
Quite a few people left disappointed.
Yeah, and to see that in general, that was with Zach LaVine the day after he participated in a 3-point shootout last year. So Zach LaVine's brand is already growing in a way where you would think an up-and-coming star is. But I think this specific situation, now that he is an all-star, expedited that process to another level. To where now you're going to get, like you mentioned, more of these situations, hopefully less unfortunate stalking situations. But, that brand is going to continue to expand and grow. And for that to happen in the city of Chicago with the Bulls as a whole, that's something we could actually appreciate more of, because that hasn't happened really since Derrick Rose. And that's something that we admired and loved about the part of Derrick Rose's time here in Chicago was the fact that he had his own brand. The fact that you can go down the street on Michigan Avenue to the Foot Locker and see his poster with his Adidas shoe out there. The fact that the storyline that came with it, even when he first tore his ACL and then they had the return, right? Like the marketing and that goes behind these things to go with his brand made him that much bigger, but Chicago as a whole that much bigger. And the fact that and Zach is now on that rise to where he's going to eventually get to that type of level if he continues to go at the route that he's going, especially if the Bulls keep him as the foundational piece of this franchise. It's only bigger and better. I just hope it doesn't get to the level where he has to deal with Eddie Kane trying to jump over a gate to get in touch with JT. That's all I ask. I mean, as long as he ain't got to go through that, I'm cool.
That was a nice callback.
Zach about to take his run through the 3-point contest through the racks. We're gonna switch off now and go over to Twitter. So this is a good time to switch over. I'll see you fellas over there. We'll have Drew Stevens joining us.
Like this. I wish raindrops would fall.
I was trying to think of a washed up Bulls player who would be the Eddie Kane in that situation. I don't know. Let's see who that would be. Well, we gonna take it over to Twitter though. That's it for us here on YouTube. Thank y'all for joining us. Whoever joins us, if you joining us later, remember to check us out on Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday here on YouTube as we typically are with our regular shows. We should have Scoop B on this Thursday as well, so definitely check that one out coming up. But join us over on WARR Media on YouTube. On Twitter at WARR Media, and we're going to be live for the rest of the pre-game festivities here. So we'll check y'all later. Keep bouncing.